gathered together with the mighty Yahawah through the Spirit. Right, his brother Yahawah.
Brother Tazma.
Right. Right, all praises. All right, I'm going to dive into it today, just going into what it means to be a leader, just being in the spirit of leadership, and how that ties in with building a church or, building a congregation. What does that mean to be a leader, right? Because in these last days, we need to know how to be leaders, right? Not over, just a congregation, but within our respective households, just being a leader in general as we represent Yahawah B'Shem Yahushua, right? I'm going to go to the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 5. Do we have that? 2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse number 5. Sorry, verse 3.
2 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 3. Giving no offense in anything,
Right.
that the ministry be not
The
blamed.
Lord say,
That the ministry be not blamed.
so if you're in this ministry, you're a leader, you represent this ministry. Go to 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 20.
2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse number 20. Now then are we ambassadors for Hamashiach,
Right.
as though God did beseech you by us.
Right.
We pray you, in Hamashiach's stead, be ye reconciled to God.
Right, so we are ambassadors of Yahawah B'Shem Yahushua, meaning we are representatives of this truth. We represent the Lord in all fashions, no matter where we go, how we act, it's all predicated back to the truth. So that's why we have to be leaders and we have to know how to lead, and ultimately that comes with building as well. Right, you can go to Romans chapter 15 and verse 4 in Bible Kashah. So when it goes into leadership, we have to look at what our forefathers did. That's always the blueprint, is looking at what our forefathers did on earth and mimicking those ways.
It's the book of Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning,
Right?
that we through much patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
Right, so we have hope, man. Jake coming out the word don't really know about leadership, right? Jake, he following the crowd, he following what's bad, he just following the society around him. He don't really know what it means to be a leader or even to build, man. Right? But we teaching our men and we teaching our women, we teaching them how to lead in these last days, man. Right, on how to lead. And what we need examples, and what better examples is to read about our forefathers in the scriptures, man. And our foremothers, man. Right? Mighty leaders.
Can we go to Isaiah chapter 9 and 16? Right. Let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 9 and 16. So like the brother said, we going over how to be a leader in the last days. Because you live in the end of the world. All hell is breaking loose. You see the current events. You see the things that's going on. The spiritual warfare in high places. The demons on the rise. And these are the days where you have to step up. It don't matter who you are. It don't matter how tall you are, how short you are, how old are you, how young you are. You have to step up and you have to be a leader for Yahawah B'Shem Yahushua. So like the brother said, it's not a lot of leaders out here, man. Right? You have certain men, they don't know how to lead at all. They were never taught to. Certain men, they are in the positions of leadership. They simply just choose not to lead. Then you have certain men that are set up in leadership, like the men in this world, that's not supposed to be there, man. You think LeBron James is supposed to be leading everybody? Dwayne Wade. The brother did a cold cut on Dwayne Wade. People look at him as leaders, but yet he's turning his son into a woman. Right? So let's bring that up. Isaiah 9 and 16.
It's the book of Isaiah chapter 9 verse 16. For the elders of this people cause them to err.
Wait, read that right?
For the leaders of this people cause them to err.
Read that again.
For the leaders of this people cause them to err.
So our leaders in this world, they cause our people to err, man. People look up to Drake, Biggie Smalls, right? Yeah, Jake saying I want to be like Tupac. So these are people, we look up to people that don't know what's going on. And that's what caused us to err through the propaganda. So Esau, he gets these certain men that have high social status, that don't know what's going on, that got their beard shaved, that's in all type of manner of wickedness, and he sets them up as leaders. And our people, we're gonna look to those people.
Right.
So we follow everything they do. So if Drake puts out a song about adultery, our people are gonna listen to it. We're gonna be vibing our head. If NBA Youngboy puts out a song about murdering somebody, our people are gonna be listening to it, man. Now we have murder on our mind. So read that again from the top.
Isaiah 9 and 16. For the leaders of this people cause them to err, and they that are led of them are destroyed.
It says what?
And they that are led of them are destroyed.
And if you following these so-called wicked leaders, the Lord said you're going to be destroyed, man. Right? You're not going to make it. If you following the men in the world, right? You following these so-called men of high stature, what people look up to, right? The traditions of this world. If you following these demons, the Lord said you're going to be destroyed. Read on.
Verse 17. Therefore the Lord shall have no joy in their young men, neither shall have mercy on their fatherless and widows. For everyone is an hypocrite and an evildoer, and every mouth speaketh folly.
See that? And you have men that's hypocrites. Men that's hypocrites. Right? They're doing something that's totally contrary to what they're telling you to do. So the Lord said you have righteous leaders, and then you have wicked leaders. Right? Men that follow the blind. Right? But brothers got it.
That's right. That's right. Right? We go to 2 Peter chapter 2 and start at verse 12. All right, 2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 12. Because you don't want to be a follower, man. Right? The people of the word, they follow. Right? The Lord said we're not doing that, man. All right, read them.
2 Peter chapter 2 and verse 12. But these as natural brute beasts,
All right.
made to be taken and destroyed.
The Lord say,
Made to be taken and
what are you
destroyed.
doing?
Speak evil of the things that they understand not,
Right?
and shall utterly perish in their own corruption.
Right? So you don't want to follow people that's going to utterly perish in their own corruption. You're following after these individuals, doing what they do. Right? Read on.
Reading on. And shall receive the reward of unrighteousness,
Right?
as they that counted pleasure to riot in the day,
Right? Because these, you should read on.
to riot in the daytime.
These people in the world, they riot in the daytime. I mean, what is it tomorrow? Juneteenth, man? Right? You're going to see a lot of people having fun in the daytime. Right? You're going to have a lot of people just doing what they want to do, sporting themselves with their own deceivings, as it's going to say. Right? But the Lord's not looking after that. He's looking for the people that set apart. The Lord was set apart. Go to the book of John chapter 2 and verse 23. Right? The Lord, will, in this world today, they will call it the Lord alone. Right? They will call him, he's always by himself. He's a weirdo. Right? Because the Lord said he knew what was in man. What you got, King?
It's the book of John chapter 2 and verse number 23. Now when he was in Jerusalem at Passover and the feast day, many believed in his name when they saw the miracles which he did.
Right.
But Yahawah did not commit himself unto
He
them.
did it what?
He did not commit himself unto
No,
them.
Yahawah wasn't, yeah, praise me, right? He's in the middle of the crowd and everybody's just, they lifting the Lord up, and you riding the wave like in the movies. That's not what's happening, man. The Lord didn't commit himself unto them, you know?
Because he knew all men.
Is he what?
Because he knew all
And
men.
he knew what was in man, man. So he separated himself, you know?
And needed not that any should testify of him. It's like of man. For he knew what was in man.
He knew what was in man. And the Lord was an example. The Lord calls us and tells us to be an example in these last days. Go to the book of Philippians chapter 3 and verse 7. Bible good shot.
Philippians chapter 3 and verse number 7. But what things were gained to me, those I count loss for Mashiach.
Right?
But doubtless I count all things but loss for the excellency of the knowledge of Mashiach Yahawah, my
Right.
Lord,
Right?
for whom I have suffered the loss of all things, and do count them but dung, that I may win in Hamashiach.
Shlaki, go to the book of 2 Thessalonians 3 and 7. That's what I want. 2 Thessalonians 3 and 7. All right.
2 Thessalonians chapter 3 and verse number 7. For yourselves know how ye ought to follow us.
Right, so he said, you know how you ought to follow us. Read on.
For we have behaved ourselves disorderly among you.
Right, read that right.
It's like, for we have not. So, I'm gonna read that from the top. For yourselves know how ye ought to follow us. For we behave not ourselves disorderly among you.
So Paul said, you already know how we acted when we were among you, man. We represent the Lord, and y'all have to follow us, man, because we're an example of what it means to follow the Lord. And we didn't behave ourselves disorderly among you. I mean, Paul said in 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1, right? If you be a follower of Christ, follow me, man. Right? Because he set an example of what it means to follow Hamashiach. Read on.
Verse 8. Neither did we eat any man's bread for naught, but wrought with labor and travail night and day,
Right?
that we might not be chargeable to any of you.
They worked and led by example, right? Read on.
Not because we have not power, but to make ourselves an example.
To what?
But to make ourselves an example
Right.
unto you to follow us.
So they made themselves an example on what it means to follow the Lord willingly, man. How many of men do you know and women do we know that willingly make themselves an example to follow the Lord, man? Right? You don't see a lot. Right? They follow after Satan. They follow after satanic ways. They lead our people astray. They know what they're doing, man. But who's gonna stand? Didn't the Lord say, "Who's gonna stand up for me or rise up for me before the evildoers, man?" Right? In Psalm chapter 96 and verse 14, on down, man. Right? So who's gonna do that in these last days? Right? So the Lord said, we have to have men that's gonna stand up and be able to lead. We have to teach that to our men. Our brothers, God. Let me go to 1 Samuel 17 chapter. 1 Samuel 17. So now you start at verse 3.
It says 2 Samuel 13.
1 Samuel, start at 17.
1 Samuel chapter 17 and verse
Start at verse 4.
verse 4. And there went out a champion.
Well, say it again.
And there went out a champion.
Right, we was breaking this down the other week at camp. Right, we gotta understand when we go out to camp. Right, we go out against a champion. Right, the Goliath of the Gentiles. Right, we doing?
And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath.
Name who?
Named Goliath.
Named Goliath. Right. When it comes down to the enemies that we face, right, we can't. We're gonna get into it with this chapter. Right, I'm gonna try to make it as quick as possible. Right, we can't be like the other men of Israel. Right, the other men of Israel are not leaders of Israel now. Right? The men, matter of fact, drop down to verse 16.
Verse 16.
Come on. Stop. Matter of fact, go up to verse 8.
Verse 8.
Uh-huh.
And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel and said unto them, why are ye come out to set your battle in array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servants of Saul? It's like to Saul. Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. If he be able to fight with me and to kill me, then will I be your servant. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall ye be our servants and serve us.
I'm gonna have you drop down to verse 16. So he came out, right, and he gave them this opportunity. He said, you can either fight against, you can come up against me, right? We can do it the easy way. You can come up against me, right? You be the representative of all of your people. Now, when it comes to going against the enemies that we face, right, what do most of our people do? That they cower, man. Right? They show themselves cowards and cowardesses. Right? They cower to the Goliaths that we face day in and day out. Right? But read that in verse 16.
Verse 16.
Come on.
And Philistine drew near morning and evening,
Uh-huh.
and presented himself 40 days.
For how long?
40 days.
Read it again.
40 days.
40 days and 40 nights. He came out and he defiled the camp of God. All right, what if somebody, brothers in here got sisters and wives, right? If somebody stepped to your wife or your sister for 40 days straight, and guess who stepped up and fought Goliath? Nobody. 40 days, day in and day out. He's defiling the camp of the Most High. Right, drop down to verse 28.
Verse 28. And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled
Right, this is when David stood up. Right? David had the cojones to stand up to his enemies. Right? This is you. You brothers have the spirit of David. Right? Every single one of you, every time you go to camp, every time you go home, right? Because we fighting, but you don't just fight battles at camp. Camp is the easiest battles because we prep with the scriptures to cut people up. Right? When you go home, that's when that spirit of David is supposed to kick in. Right, everyone?
Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, why camest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and the naughtiness of thine heart.
Read it again.
I know thy pride.
I said what?
I know thy
What do
pride.
they say about us?
I know thy
When
pride.
we come to them and we say we come in the spirit of God, they say what?
I know thy
They
pride
say that they know that we're prideful, man. Right? Read on.
and the naughtiness of thine heart.
And they think that we're absolutely naughty. Absolutely. Matter of fact, we're going to break that down, right? Read on.
For thou art come down,
Mhm.
that thou mightest see the battle.
What they think is that we just love to fight, that we just love to get into it. And that's not what we love to do. No, we don't go and seek the fight. Right? You got to be wise as a leader, right? But we will never, ever back down from one. And it will never take any of you brothers sitting in this school 40 days or 40 nights to stand up to your enemy. When it comes to being a leader, you better stand your ground 10 toes down regardless of whoever your enemy is. Right, drop down to verse 45.
Verse 45.
Mhm.
Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword, and with a spear, and with a shield.
Come on.
But I come to thee in the name of Yahawah.
Right, you better remember that, man. Right, the word of God is sharper than any two-edged sword, man. Right? The reason that they got problems with the Hebrew Israelites is because we use the Bible, correct? And they understand that their weaponry can't come against them. So when it comes down to being a leader, then you better stand bold. I don't give a damn who it is. If it's your family, if it's your best friend, you better cut them up just how you do at camp. Because we don't have no respects to persons for nobody. Right?
That's right.
That's right. So we got the definition of a leader pulled up. All right, the definition is of a leader, the person who leads or commands a group, organization, or country. It says a leader is someone who inspires passion and motivation in followers. And what they don't tell you about a leader, anybody could be a leader. Like the brother said, all brothers and sisters in this room, the Most High has chosen you. The moment you come into this truth, you are now a leader. Just because you're not out there teaching, you're not a captain over 50,000 men, 100 men, that does not make you a leader. You have everybody, that's one thing they're not going to tell you. Everybody is always watching you. Your mom is watching you. Your family in the world, they're going to be watching you. Your children. You're going to have your great-grandparents watching you. Even the brothers around you, you never know what a brother might look up to you. He might not say it or act like it, but deep down inside, you know what? I look up to this brother Aaron. And it's, man, he broke down the scriptures mighty. Man, I like the way he moved. A brother might not say it, but everybody is always watching you. So you have to be a leader and an example in all means. Right? Reading on, it says, a leader is someone with a vision and the path to realizing it. A leader is someone who ensures their team has support and tools to achieve their goals. So anytime you inspire somebody to do something, you inspire a team or people around you to achieve a goal, guess what? You are now considered a leader by definition. Right now, let's go to the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 1 and 13. Right? Before we go to 2nd Esdras 1 and 13, let's go to 1 Timothy, chapter 4 and 12.
1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 12. Let no man despise thy youth.
It says what?
Let no man despise thy youth.
Now this is Paul writing to Timothy. He said, let no man despise thy youth, man. You have young men in this troop. Men coming in at 15, 16 years old, 17, 18, 21, 22. The Lord said, let no man despise thy youth. He was telling that to Timothy. Paul was. Read on.
But be thou an example of the believers.
It says what?
But be thou an example.
No, don't be a believer. Example.
But be thou an example of the believers.
So the Paul told Timothy, hey, you got to be an example, man. Who cares how young you are? Right? Who cares how old you are? Hey, Abraham, he was a leader, man. And he was around 90-something years old. You have Eleazar. When you read 2 Maccabees, the 6th chapter, read on. So it says, be thou example of the believers. Read on.
In word.
The things you say in word. These commandments. Read on.
In conversation.
Even by the thing, a leader, a leader can't just say anything. Because you have people watch you. That's like me saying, you know what, at the count, man, we might as well just go to the club. Yeah, and then you have certain, but well, yeah, he did say that. I mean, yeah, let's just go. You have to be a leader in the conversation you hold. Every conversation you should be with a godly discourse. The Lord said in Sirach 27 and 11, let's go to that real fast. Right, quick precept, Sirach 27 and 11. The Lord said the discourse of a godly man is always with wisdom.
Sirach chapter 27 verse 11. The discourse of a godly man is always with wisdom.
Is what?
It's always with wisdom.
No foolishness.
It's always with wisdom.
Read on.
But a fool changes as the moon.
So the Lord said the discourse of a godly man is always with wisdom. If you in this truth, your conversation should be in the law of the Most High. Next thing you know, you talking about it, and guess what? Your mom might overhear you. You saying, "Well, hold on, what's that stuff you was talking about? The Israelite stuff, right? I want to know more." You have women that's not in the truth. They could be won over by the conversation of the wives. You read about that in 1 Peter chapter 3 and 1. So if it's a group of sisters in the truth, they're hearing how they want to be modest, shamefast, representing their husbands. A sister in the world, she might say, "Well, dang, well, let me see what they talking about." Now that sister is won over by their conversation, right? So let's go back to that in 1 Timothy chapter 4 and 12.
1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 12. Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word and conversation and charity.
Right, in charity, giving alms on the spiritual and physical level. Read on.
And spirit.
Even in the spirit. Read on.
And faith. And purity. Till I come give attendance to reading, to exhortation, to doctrine. Neglect not the gift that is in thee, which was given to thee by the prophecy, with the laying on of their hands by the presbytery.
Read on.
Meditate upon these things.
It says what?
Meditate upon these things.
So you have to meditate upon being a leader. Man, I got little cousins, man. They look up to me. I got a little brother. Somebody got to be an example to these generations to come. That has to be your mindset. Read on.
Give thyself wholly to them, that thy profiting may appear to all. Take heed unto thyself, and unto the doctrine. Continue in them, for in doing this, thou shalt both save thyself.
So you being with the Lord, what Paul is telling Timothy, Paul told Timothy, when doing this, you can save yourself, read on.
And them that hear thee.
And what?
And them that hear thee.
So all you, just by being a leader, guess what? You can save yourself and also the people that's hear you, the people that's looking at you. Because again, everybody's looking at you, man. And if nobody's watching you, guess what? The angels of God, they're watching you. And if they're in heaven. And the Lord, either way, you're going to be found a righteous leader or you're going to be found a wicked leader, man. Right. Look at the wicked leaders of the Bible, right? Ahithophel, right? King Saul, right? These Judas, these different men, they're wicked leaders, man. The men in 1 Maccabees chapter 5. Then you have righteous leaders through the Spirit. I got one more precept. Let's go to 2nd Esdras 1 and 13. 2nd Esdras 1 and 39. Right, 2nd Esdras chapter 1 and 39.
2nd Esdras chapter 1 verse 39. Unto whom I will give for leaders.
It says what?
Unto whom I will give for leaders.
So the Lord said in the last days, he's going to send leaders back on the earth. Read on.
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right, so you have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They're back on the earth during the regeneration. Now, we don't know who these men are, but we just know the Most High sent these men back on the earth for leaders. Read on.
Oseas, Amos, and Micah, Joel, Abdias, and Jonas, Nahum, and Habakkuk, Sophonias, Haggaius, Zachary, and Malachi,
right?
Which is called also an angel of the Lord.
So all of the major and minor prophets, the renowned men of old, the Lord has sent these men back on the earth for leaders, right? You got it.
Oh, that's right. So the Lord had our men set up as leaders regardless what age, right? It doesn't matter, man. Go to the book of 1 Maccabees chapter 13 and start at verse 1. Yeah. All right, let's read about the mighty Simon, man. All right, Simon was a diversified leader. The man could do it, right?
1 Maccabees 13 and 1. Now when Simon heard that Tryphon had gathered together a great host to invade the land of Judea and destroy it.
And what?
And destroy
So
it.
both his brothers are already dead, man. For trying to, for fighting against the heathen, they put their lives on the line. Let's see what Simon said. Read on.
And saw that the people was in great trembling and fear.
His people was trembling. He seen that his people was fearful, man. Right? And for those that play sports, you see when you apply to play another team, you know it's good, you know they're good and all of that, man. You've been hearing about them, whatever. Now you seeing them kind of warm up, like, damn, you gotta go against them. You already know we finna lose. Right? But he's seen that in his people. Read on.
He went up to Jerusalem and gathered the people together.
He huddled them together, right? Read on.
And gave them exhortation, saying, Ye yourselves know what great things I and my brethren and my father's house have done for the laws and for the sanctuary, the battles also, and troubles which we have seen.
So a good leader is always going to put you in remembrance. Hold that. Go to 2 Peter chapter 1 and verse 12. A good leader is always going to put you in remembrance of the things that happened before. Right. Right. Because if you remember, hey, you have comfort through these scriptures. You have comfort in the things the Most High already had done. It's just people tend to forget because that's what fear does. All right, what you got?
2 Peter chapter 1 and 12. Wherefore I will not be negligent.
What Paul say?
Wherefore I will not be
I will
negligent
not be negligent. Read on.
to put you always in remembrance
Right.
of these things,
Uh-huh.
though ye know them and be established in the present truth.
Because you don't think they already knew about the battles that happened beforehand. You don't think they remember Jonathan and Judas. But fear takes that away. He has to put them in remembrance so they remember aforetime. Right? That's what Paul did. And that's what Simon is doing here. So go back to that first Maccabees chapter 13.
First Maccabees chapter 13 and verse 4. By reason whereof all my brethren are slain for Israel's sake, and I am left alone.
All right.
Now therefore, be it far from me that I should spare my own life in any time of trouble, for I am no better than my brethren.
Read on.
Doubtless.
What do you say?
Doubtless.
Doubtless. I mean, I don't have to think twice about it. Careful for nothing. Read on.
I will avenge my nation,
Right.
and the sanctuary, and our wives and our children, for all the heathen are gathered to destroy us of every malice.
Now what happened after he said these things?
Now as soon as the people heard these words, their spirit revived.
Their what?
Their spirit
Their
revived.
spirit revived, man. They instantly went from sad and depressed because they thought they were going to be destroyed to having hope, man. Like the brother read the definition, a leader's going to motivate, man. Right? He gave his people hope that they can win, man, because he stepped up in that position. And like the brother said, let no man despise thy youth. It don't matter how young you are, man. The Lord not looking at that, man. Right? The Lord looks on the inward, man. Go to the book of 2 Kings, chapter. Go to the book of 2 Kings, chapter 20, and start at 21.
2 Kings 21 and verse number 1.
Right.
Manasseh was 12 years old
This man was 12 years old. Read on.
when he began to reign, and reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Hephzibah. And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord.
And he did that which was evil in the sight of the Lord. And he was 12 years old, man. A lot of people say, well, no, he's still developing. Right, he had a lot of years ago. Right, hold on, give him some time. He needs some more school. The Lord will call you at any time. It doesn't matter, man. Right. Didn't he call Samuel when he was just but a little child, man? Then he called David. He was the youngest out of 7 children. Right, he said, no, there's one more. He was like, no, he's a little one. He was like, bring him. This is the one right here, man. And he had to get into that leadership role instantly. The Lord not hearing that. It don't matter how old you are. Let no man despise thy youth. All these brothers are in here are leaders, man. Right? If you're watching this, even the truth, you're a leader, man. No matter if you're 13, 14, 15, you still live with your mom. Hey, the Lord called you to be a leader. Go to the book of 2 Kings, chapter 22, verse 1.
2 Kings chapter 22 and verse 1. Josiah was 8 years old.
How old?
Was 8 years old.
Read on.
When he began to reign. And he reigned 31 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jedediah, the son of Adiah of Bakoth.
Right.
And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord.
Right.
And walked in all the way of David his father. And turned not aside to the right hand or to the left.
This man was 8 years old, and the Lord said he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. 8 years old. Imagine the Lord calling your second grade little brother to become king over a nation. He in second grade. He's still learning the times table. He got home. He got the cursive homework, and the Lord said he's gonna rule a whole nation. And you gotta bow a knee to him, man. Right? He said that hey, the Lord can do these things, but the Lord did that with all of us, man. And at the end of the day, we have to be leaders no matter what. Right? You got it.
God, brother, give me 2 Maccabees, the 7th chapter. Start at verse 20.
2 Maccabees chapter 7 and verse 20. But when the mother was marvelous above all and worthy of honorable memory, for when she saw her 7th son slain,
She did what?
saw her 7th son
So
slain,
she saw her 7 sons being slain, right? This is a mighty account. Right, we going?
within the space of one day, she bare it with a good courage, because of the hope that she had in the Lord.
Read on.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
exhorted.
she did what?
She
What did
exhorted.
he say?
She
Sorry,
exhorted.
touching back on what Tazama said, man. If the brother could, real quick, give me Proverbs. Matter of fact, we're gonna finish the side. We're gonna go to Proverbs. Right? She exhorted. What read on?
She exhorted
Mhm.
every one of them in her own language,
Read on.
filled with the courageous spirits, and stirring up her womanish thoughts with a manly stomach. She said unto them, I cannot tell how ye came into my womb.
Right. This is after she's seeing all. She's watching her sons die. Right, all the way down to the last one. Right, read on.
For I neither gave you breath nor life, neither was it I that formed you, the members of every one of you, but doubtless the creator of the world.
But it says what?
But doubtless the creator of the world.
We got to remember that all things come from the Most High, right? So we can't. What is it? It say it in Romans. Who loved the creation more than the Creator, right? You got to be willing to give everything up when it comes into the Most High, right? That goes into being courageous, man, right? Because how many people you know that's willing to lose everything for the truth? A lot of brothers that say it, they'll bring it out. They got 50 million precepts on it.
Right.
When it comes down to actually making that decision to make, most brothers truth the world out of seen it, right? Go to Proverbs chapter 18 and start verse 20.
Salaki, can I ask a question? What would that manly stomach be going into in 21?
Like manly, like courage, the courage of a man.
Okay, God.
Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 21.
Uh-huh.
It reads, death and life are in the power of the tongue.
It says that what?
Death and life are in the power of the tongue.
Right, when you speak, not just, this goes into being an example, right? When you speak, you have the power to bring life or death into a brother, right?
And they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof.
And it says that what?
And they that love it shall eat the fruit thereof.
Right, it says they that love it will eat the fruit thereof. The people that look up to your leadership, they gonna eat everything that come out of your mouth. Right, so if you joking, you making negative comments, you using a wrong manner of language, they gonna eat that up. And what you think they eating up? Death. Right, that ain't doing nothing but destroying them. Right? So if you have the opportunity to either build or to tear away, right, then you want to always have righteous manner of conversation and to build up. Right? Let's go some.
That's right, that's right. Let's go to the book of 2 Maccabees, chapter 15, and verse number 7. Right, 2 Maccabees, chapter 15, and verse number 7.
2 Maccabees chapter 15 and verse number 7. But Maccabeus had ever short confidence that the Lord would help him.
Now, Judas Maccabeus, he was the captain over his brethren. He was a leader to the people. Now, he had confidence in the Most High that, guess what, he would help the Israelites during the time of war. And a leader, ultimately, it starts with you yourself. You can't lead people and yourself all out of order. What if Judas Maccabees didn't have confidence? What if it said he had the weakest faith of them all, and he was leading those men? Guess what? Those men will be destroyed, man. They'll be finished, right? Getting thrust through. Certain men, they crying out there. You have grown men out there crying, right? Men scratching their head, scratching their beard, all because their leader, his faith wasn't he was just out there. Yeah, certain brothers, man, I'm gonna just lead the people, man. And we seen certain brothers say that, man, I'm gonna go out there, hey, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. Hold on, brother, yourself, you're not even in order yourself. You haven't even read the whole Bible yet. And you're trying to lead people. You're gonna lead them to destruction, right? So Judas Maccabees, he was on fire. He had ever short confidence. And that spirit rubbed off on his men. Read on.
Verse 8. Wherefore he exhorted his people.
It says what?
Wherefore he exhorted his people.
And exhortation is a good characteristic of a leader. You're going to know a good leader by his exhortation. You have to ask yourself, can you exhort men around you in the times of need? If y'all literally on a road, y'all slip over, y'all fall into a ditch, who's going to be the brother to say, you know what? Let's pray, right? Let's go through the precepts. Everything is going to be all right. Everybody you just can't have one man that does that. Because what happens if that man dies? Then what? Somebody else has to raise up in his stead. You wouldn't want nobody to raise up in his stead. Everybody should be on one accord. So exhortation is a good characteristic of a leader. Also, when you go into the definition and the characteristics, a good leader makes his team around him better. So if a leader, if this is just a leader and the rest of the men don't know what's going on, and it's 5 years go by and it's the same thing, guess what? That man, he's not a good leader at all.
Right.
They haven't learned nothing from him, haven't picked up nothing from him. Hey, what is he doing, man? Right? He need his crown snatched from him. Right? Because a good leader, he's going to make the people around him better. Read on.
Wherefore he exhorted his people not to fear the coming of the heathen against them, but to remember the help which in former times they had received from heaven.
Right?
And now to expect the victory and aid which should come unto them from the Almighty, and so comforting them out of the law and the prophets, and withal putting them in mind of the battles that they won afore, he made them more cheerful.
See that? So Judas Maccabees, by his great leadership skills, he was able to comfort them. It's not always by exhorting brothers, but you got to do this. You got to be on fire. You got to do this. You want to be able to comfort a brother. What if his wife commit adultery on him? Were you going to give him Daniel chapter 12 and tell him to be on fire? That's evil, man. You have to, you know what, brother? Hey, she committed adultery. Hey, you have to take his mind off that situation. Because all he's thinking about is the messages that he's seeing, right? The music he was playing on the way to the home, right? Playing Rod Wave. He down thinking about the noises he heard. Guess what? You got to take his mind off it. You can't, Daniel 12, telling him to be on fire is not going to get it done, right? So that's a part of comforting. You have to be able to comfort. And everybody, as a leader, you have to know the scriptures, man. You have to know the scriptures, because one brother might be out the spirit, and guess what? You got to step up. You got to be that brother that's in the spirit at all times, because nobody's going to be on fire all the time, right? I might not be in the spirit. A brother has to say, you know what? Hey, these things still got to get done. And he's pulling the precepts. He's setting things in order. So whether you're a woman, great, small, you have to know the Bible. Or if you don't, guess what? Satan is going to plague your mind. He's going to take advantage of you, because he know you don't know the Bible. And Satan knows the Bible like this. Right? Read Matthew chapter 4. How he quoted Psalms chapter 92, man. It's like in chapter 91 and 12 on down. So let's go to 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and 18. Women got to know the Bible as well. If that woman in 2 Maccabees chapter 7, if she didn't know what was going on, guess what? All hell would have broke loose. She would have exhorted her son. A lot of women there say, you know what? Come on, baby. You know just don't do it. Think about me. No, she exhorted her sons to die for the Most High. That take a courageous spirit. And she knew the accounts. She knew what it took to be a leader. All right, so let's bring that up. 2 Maccabees 6 and 18.
2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 18. Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man, and of well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh.
And to what?
And to eat swine's flesh.
So you had Eleazar, the Greeks, they tried to literally force his mouth and open it and have him to eat swine's flesh, man. Right? Read on.
But he choosing rather to die gloriously.
It says what?
But he choosing rather to die gloriously
Read on.
than to live stained with such an abomination, spit it forth, and came of his own accord to the torment.
So he spit it forth. He said, man, I'm not dealing with that. Right? I'm not eating pork. What are you talking about? We're going to die for the laws of God. Read on.
Verse 20. As it behooved them to come, that are resolute to stand out against such things as are not lawful for the love of life to be tasted.
Right?
But they that had the charge of that wicked feast, for the old acquaintance they had with the man, taking him aside.
So what they did, they took him aside. They said, okay, this man not going to eat it. Let me take him aside. And that's what Satan is going to do on a spiritual level. He's going to take you and he's going to tell you to come check it out. Come to the side real fast when you by yourself. When you're not around the brothers. And that's what makes a leader a true leader, when he's by himself? How you gonna conduct yourself? You have certain women, they go home, they take off their dress, they go back to being on the world, doing God, being on TikTok, doing all type of manner of lewdness, right? Going out with their friends, smoking. Men doing the same thing. But guess what? It said they took him aside. Read on.
Besought him to bring flesh of his own provision.
They said, guess what? Just act like you eating pork. Just get some beef, but then pretend that it's pork. Try to finesse itself around the situation. Read on.
Such as was lawful for him to use, and make as if he did eat of the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king, that in so doing he might be delivered from death, and for the old friendship with them find favor.
So they tried to get him to do that so they could rekindle that friendship, that connection, right? And Satan, he's gonna try to rekindle that connection, that friendship that he had with you in the world, right? He's gonna try to temper everything that you got better on, that you excelled in. He's gonna attack that. Read on.
But began to consider discreetly, and as became his age, and the excellency of his ancient years, and the honor of his gray head, whereunto he was come,
Right.
and his most honest education from a child, or rather the holy law, made and given by God, wherefore he answered according, and willed them straight ways to send them to the grave.
He said, hey man, you gotta send me to the grave. And he was an aged man. Read on.
Verse 24. For it becometh not our age, said he, in any wise to dissemble whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being fourscore years old and 10.
It says what?
Being fourscore years old and 10.
So this man, fourscore, right, or a score is 20. So if he's fourscore, that means he's 80 years old plus 10, meaning he's 90 years old. This is a 90-year-old man choosing rather to die for the laws of God than to eat something as small as eating pork. And the reasons why he did it, he was an old man, right? But he knew he had younger men watching him, men looking at him. Read on.
Were now gone to a straight religion, and so they through mine hypocrisy, and desire to live a little time, and a moment longer, should be deceived by me, and I get a stain to my old age.
It says what?
And I get a stain to my old age,
Read on.
and make it abominable.
So guess what? If you're not being a righteous example, don't matter how old you are, how young you are, how much, whether you know little, whether you know much, you can get a stain to your age. You can get a stain. As a leader, you don't want a stain to your name. Like King Saul, he got a stain to his name, man. He can't go in the Bible and erase that account out. Right? Ahithophel, he has a stain to his name, man. These different wicked Antiochus Epiphanes, he's always going to be known as a wicked man. He can't get these stains out. You don't want to let one transgression, one characteristic of you not being a leader, one time that you wasn't doing what you were supposed to be doing outside of camp by yourself, get a stain to your name.
Now you're a byword.
See that? Now you're a byword. Hey, I was just thinking that earlier. You have men and brothers here all the time. Man, it was this one brother. Anytime somebody said, man, it was this one sister, guess what? That was a bad example. You don't want to be in the truth known, man. It was this one brother, he did da-da-da-da-da. It's literally over 1,000 of counts of, man, this one brother, he did this. Man, there was this one brother, he done flipped over the table at the Passover. And there was this one sister, man.
Caught in a tent with another man during Sabbath.
See that?
Yeah.
Caught in the tent with another man during the Feast of
In
Tabernacles.
the booth.
Man, there was this one sister, man. She had a beard and she was eating all the food at the feast day. 6'5". Aggressive. You don't want to be that one brother or that one sister. Let's jump down to the point. Verse 28.
Verse 28.
Verse 27.
Verse 27. Wherefore now, manfully changing this life, I will shew myself such and one as my age requireth.
And it's all men in this room. There's no young boys in here. We have to shew ourselves at our age requireth. Read on.
and leave a notable example.
And what?
And leave a notable example.
What we gotta do?
And leave a notable example
Read on.
to such as be young to die willingly.
So we gotta be an example to the younger men. Not just physically, but you have men that's younger in the spirit. People that are just coming into the truth. People that don't know about the truth. Like I said, if you're not an example in the truth, you're an example to the men and women that's not in the truth. Because best believe they're looking at you. They're looking at your fringes, right? They looking at your Bible. They wondering what's the shofar, right? They wondering why you got a lion chain around your neck. They wondering why you always wearing a mitre. They're looking at you. Your boss is looking at you. Funny. He's turning red every time he walks past you. He's wondering why you always on a lunch break reading. Why are you out there yelling and screaming? Right? Then guess what? You got to be an example to the younger men on the spiritual and physical level. Read on.
And courageously for the honorable and holy laws. And when he had said these words, immediately he went to the tournament.
See that? And that's Eliezer. That's the guy.
Huh. That's right, man. And all those points just go back to what our leaders had and which was called faith, man. They all believed in the Most High, man. All right, go to the book of Sirach, chapter 46 and verse 1. All right. Sirach 46 and 1. Let's read about our leaders that had faith in the Lord, man. Right, in the time of their trouble, in the time of their distress, in the time of war. Read that, Baba Kusha.
Sirach chapter 46 and verse 1. It says, Jesus, the son of Navi, was valiant in wars.
Right, talking about Joshua, read on.
And was the successor of Moses and prophecies, who according to his name was made great for the saving of the elect of God.
Right.
And taking vengeance of the enemies that rose up against them, that he might set Israel and their inheritance.
He had a very big job to do. I mean, out of a generation of 600,000 footmen, only 2 men seen the promised land, man. Caleb and Joshua. And they had to lead these men, man. Grow up and to be leaders, man. Right? To give the inheritance and to give the our forefathers the laws. Read on.
Verse 2. How great glory got he when he did lift up his hands and stretched out his sword against the cities.
Right.
Who before him so stood to it. For the Lord himself brought his enemies unto him.
Right. Through faith, the Lord brought his enemies and submitted them unto him. Read on.
Did not the sun go back by his means?
What the Lord say?
Did not the sun go back by his
The
means?
man told the Lord to hold off the sun. We not done killing yet. Just read Joshua, the 10th chapter. What man has ever told the Lord to stop the sun? And the Lord listened. Read on.
And was not one day as long as two?
Right, let's see why. Read on.
He called upon the Most High Lord.
No, he did what?
He called upon the Most High
He
Lord.
believed it himself.
He called upon the Most High Lord.
Right?
When the enemies pressed upon him
Right.
on every side.
Uh-huh.
And the great Lord heard him.
Right?
And with hailstones of mighty power.
Right?
He made the battle to fall violently upon the nations. And the descent of Beth-horon. He destroyed them that resisted.
Right?
That the nations might know all their strength, because he fought in the sight of Yahawah.
Right?
And he followed the mighty one.
Hey, great leaders were always great followers, man. Right? They knew what the saying in the world, a great teacher can't be a great teacher without being first a great student, man. Right? He followed the Lord. All of our forefathers followed after righteousness. Right? They followed after the Lord, man. And that was great faith that Joshua showed. Go to the book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 11, and start at verse 68, man. All of our forefathers trusted in the Lord when things got crazy.
1 Maccabees chapter 11 and verse number 68. And behold, the host of strangers met them in the plain.
Right? So this is Jonathan with his men going to war with the strangers in the plain. Right? With Demetrius and his men. Read on.
Who, having laid men in ambush for him in the mountains, came themselves over against him.
Right? They set a sneak attack on Jonathan and his men. Right? Read on.
So when they lay in the bushes, when they lay in ambush, rose out of their places and joined battle. All that were of Jonathan's side fled.
So all the people on Jonathan's team, his army, they fled. Now it's just Jonathan and 2 other men. They was like, oh damn, what the hell is this? And they ran and got up out of there, man. They was in a situation and they forsook Jonathan. Read on.
And so much as there was not one of them left,
right,
except Mattathias, the son of Absalom,
right,
Judas, the son of Calphi, the captains of the host.
right. So the captains of the host were the only two other men that stayed with Jonathan to fight. Read on.
Then Jonathan rent his clothes and cast earth upon his head and prayed.
No, he put his head down.
And
He
prayed.
said, "What the hell's gonna happen?"
And
He
prayed.
put his head down. He said, "Great Lord, man," and prayed to the Most High, man. Exercise faith. Read on.
Afterwards, turning again to battle,
He turned again to the battle and did what?
he put them to flight.
Right?
And so they ran away.
3 men made the army run. Now he's gonna read about how many men they put to flight. Read on.
Now when his own men that were fled saw this,
So the men that forsook Jonathan and his men, they saw this. So what Jake always do? Read on.
turned again unto him.
Right? They see his man's on. Now they trying to come back. Right? Now they trying to come back. Oh damn! I didn't even know y'all was going to come back into this war real quick. Right? 'Cause I thought we was gonna lose. Right? Read on.
And with him pursued to Cades,
Right?
even unto their own tents.
Right?
And there they camped.
Right?
So there was slain out of the heathen that day about 3,000 men.
Right?
But Jonathan returned to Jerusalem.
3 people slew 3,000 men, man. The Lord put them to flight, man. 3 men, hand clave to the sword, didn't stop because they have faith and complete trust in Yahawah by Hashem Yahawah, man. Give one more scripture. Pass. All right, go to the book of Hebrews, chapter 11, and start at verse 26. Man. Hebrews, chapter 11, and start at verse 12.
Hebrews chapter 11 and verse number 12. Therefore sprang 3 even of one, and him as good as dead, so many as the stars of the sky,
All right.
in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable.
Read on.
These all died in faith.
What our forefathers do,
These all died in faith,
right?
not having received the promises, but having seen them afar
They
off.
seen the promises afar off, man. They didn't see Abraham didn't have the land yet, man. Right, but he knew his seed was going to inherit the land. All of our forefathers died for a kingdom they never saw. They died. They wanted to see these prophecies. You don't think they wanted to know who Mystery Babylon the Great is, man? I mean, just read Daniel the 12th chapter. He says, "Seal up the vision and go stand in thy ways, man." I mean, this has nothing to do with you, right? Just write down the vision and just go do your business, man. He couldn't even know the vision that he couldn't even get the breakdowns of the vision that he had, man. Right? They wanted to see these things. They all died in faith, right? Not receiving the promises. Read on.
And were pursued, and were persuaded of them,
Uh-huh.
and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth.
Right? Leaders also have to have vision, man. They have to have a vision. They have to have a goal in mind. Right? All of our forefathers had a vision. They understood the kingdom was the goal. And that's what they had as a rock, man. And they understood, hey, the Lord was going to save us. They had a vision and they always exhorted upon that. Brothers and guys.
So to give me Mark the 9th chapter, start at verse 23.
The book of Mark, chapter 9, and verse number 23. It reads, Yahawah said unto him, if thou canst
What
believe,
did he say?
if thou canst believe,
Right, read on.
all things are possible to him that believeth.
For a brother that truly got unwavering faith, there is nothing that's limited to you. Right? There's nothing that can stop you from it. Right, read on.
Reading on, and straightway the father of the child cried out.
This is after Yahawah had came down from the mount. Brothers know the story, but still gonna kind of touch on it a little bit. Yahawah came down from the mount. He came down and there was certain disciples that couldn't cast out certain spirits. Right, read on.
And said with tears, Lord, I believe. Help thou my unbelief.
He said what?
Help thou my
He
unbelief.
said, Lord, I believe, but help thou my unbelief. Brothers know what that means? I believe. Huh?
Increase my faith.
Increase. I believe, but I don't completely believe. Right? And that's how a lot of people are, on not just the highways and byways, but in everyday life. You know what happens when you believe, but you don't believe enough? You hold on to spirits. Right? It's certain spirits that you don't allow to go out of you. Right? And then we turn around and we go to camp. We might do videos. And then we teach in these classes, whole time you got certain spirits on you that you never let out. Right? And then we be wondering, drop down, brothers in Milwaukee hear this all the time. Right? But drop down to verse 28.
Verse 28. And when he was come into the house, his disciples asked him privately, why can now we cast them out?
Right, so the disciples couldn't understand why. It was certain disciples that Yahawah took up to the mount with him, and it was certain ones that he left behind. Certain brothers was just a little more on top of their game. They was a little more purged clean. Right, read on.
Verse 29. And he said unto them, this kind can come forth by nothing, but by prayer and fasting.
Right, read that verse again.
And he said unto them, this kind can come forth by nothing, but by prayer and fasting.
Right, that's actually spiritual right there. That's even on the wall. Her brother could read that real fast. He was just talking about that. What that say on that little board?
Be the change
you wish to see in the world.
It says, "Be the change that you wish to see in this world." If you want to cast the demons out of somebody else, you must first cast the demons out of where? Out of yourself. Right, and that's what prayer and what fasting does. We was talking about this a couple weeks ago. Right, how long can you go without having water? He said what? It's about 3 days. Right, you can go about a year. You die. Go 74 hours without water, my boy. You out of here. Right, you can go, I want to say 3 to 4 weeks without food. What's the longest a brother that ever fasted? 3. You got some brothers that done did 3 days. You done pushed, you said 2. You got some brothers that done pushed 72. That's 3 days. You got some brothers that done pushed the absolute limit when it comes to fasting. Right? And it was points in time where you wanted to go ahead and drink, right? But what did you do anyway?
Kept going.
You kept going. You forced yourself not to fall to your temptation, right? And that's what spirit and what fasting does. If you can force yourself to not have something that your body needs to survive, then you can force yourself to not fall to something that your body don't need to survive. You can force yourself to not fall to marijuana. You can force yourself to not fall to pornography, to not fall to the lust spirit, right? That just shows you the confidence behind it. If you can force yourself to basically almost kill yourself for the Most High, well, then you can definitely fight off a spirit that don't mean nothing to you. Give me Sirach, the 10th chapter. Sirach chapter 10, start at verse 2. Right, praying and fasting, although it's spiritual, right, it's a carnal understanding behind it. It teaches you discipline. Right, read that.
Sirach chapter 10 and verse 2. As the judge of the people is himself.
Read it again.
As the judge of the people is himself.
Right, as the judge of the people is himself. Right, read on.
So are his
It
officers.
says that what?
So are his officers.
So is everybody that follows you. It was a brother that out in this camp all the time when we used to teach. Every time the brother would teach, he'd kind of look at me. I used to wonder what. Right? But he'd be mocking the spirit that I had on me. Right? Sometimes that's what happens. People will be watching you, and you might not even know, but they'll be watching for your approval. Watching to see how you move. Mimicking your act. Mimicking the spirit that you have on you. Right? If you got certain spirits on you, when they mimic you, what spirits you think you're going to have on them? Or you just destroy all of Israel just like that. By not having discipline. By not having complete and utter faith.
Hey, brothers, watch how you handle disagreements, man.
That's a fact.
Right? How does a Hebrew Israelite handle a disagreement?
All right, I got a precept, Judges 17 and verse 6.
Judges chapter 17 and verse 6. In those days there was no king in Israel, but every man did that which was right in his own eyes.
And that's where we at this point in time. Right? You got so many different organizations. You got so many different people in the truth. You got camps. You got church-like Israelites. You got home dwellers. That's the couch Israelites. Right? Everybody is doing things in the way that they see fit. And what's important, Israel ain't never all been on the same page. That's one thing that we just got to expel out of our minds. We're not going to always completely agree on everything. But it's understanding how to disagree peacefully. Right? Without stuff getting physical. Without it getting too carnal. Without brothers getting emotional. That emotional demon is probably the worst demon in Israel. Right? And if you can expel that emotional demon out, and the Lord says that there was nothing. Go back to that real quick in Romans 9. Mark 9 and what was that? 23, 22.
What, 23?
23. Come.
Mark chapter 9 and verse number 23.
Right? Read slow.
Yahawah said unto him, if thou canst believe.
Right? If you can actually believe, you can push these spirits that you keep on yourself out of yourself, then what? Read on.
All things are possible to him that believeth.
Then there is absolutely nothing that can stop you from achieving anything when it comes to the truth, when it comes to the world, right? When it comes to damn whatever, right? Brother got a point?
That's right. And that all goes into building a church, man. Right? Because when you lead in different individuals and you lead in brothers, man, you're ultimately building something. You're building a church, and you have to stand on a certain foundation. And we know our foundation is Yahawah, right? Yahawah, man. Right? Go to the book of 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 4. And don't get it twisted. Being the leader is a thankless job. It is a thankless position, man. You're doing things behind the scenes for the good and the betterment of the body that you will never get the thanks or applaud for, man, because you're expected to do these things, man. Right? Go to 2 Corinthians. It's a tough and laborious duty, man. Right? Go to 2 Corinthians 7 and 4.
2 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 4. Great is my boldness of speech toward you.
Right?
Great is my glorying of you. I am filled with comfort. I am exceeding joyful in all our tribulation.
He said, I'm exceeding joyful in all the hell that we have to go through. Read on.
Verse 5. For when we are come into Macedonia,
Right?
our flesh had no rest.
No, they had 8 to 10 hours of sleep every night.
Our flesh had no
Their
rest.
flesh had no rest, man. Right? They would go out teach the people. They're teaching openly in the public. They're doing discourses in the temple, right? Then they have to come back, probably do a breakdown with the rest of the disciples, and then they were up writing breakdowns in the middle of the night. And guess what? They have to do everything again the next day, man. Read on.
But we were troubled on every side.
Right?
Without were fightings.
Man. People trying to debate you. You have false brethren unaware trying to come against you, man. Read on.
Within were fears.
Right? And within were fears, man. Right? So these are the things the apostles had to go through when they was preaching the gospel, man. When they was preaching these different things. Right? Go to the book of James chapter 3 and verse 1. Yeah, God.
James
Yeah, James 3 and 1.
chapter 3 and 1. My brethren, be not many masters,
Right?
knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation.
Be not many masters, man, because we have to receive the greater condemnation. But once you win this truth, man, you are a teacher. And you don't have to verbally say anything to teach. You teach through your actions. You teach what you do, man. Right? How you act, how you handle certain situations, how you portray yourself, as the brother was going into earlier. Right? You are a teacher to the young, man. Right? Go to the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6. All right, come. All right, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6, and start at verse number 4. Start at verse 3.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 6 and verse 3.
Well, actually, start at verse 1.
Verse 1.
Right?
Wherefore, O ye kings,
Right, read that again.
hear therefore, O ye kings,
Right.
and understand.
Right?
Learn ye that be judges of the ends of the earth.
See, the reason why the people, they don't understand that our salvation is going to be strange to the heathen, because the brothers out there preaching on the highways and byways are the next judges of the whole earth, man. And they can't perceive that. Brothers don't got doctorate degrees. Brothers didn't do 8 years of Harvard, right, law school, PhD, double masters. Brothers, ex felons, cons, right, came out the world, was doing all types of things, and these are your judges of the earth. So the Lord's speaking to us. Read on.
Verse 2. Give ear, ye that rule the people,
Right?
and glory in the multitude of nations.
Right?
For power is given you of the Lord,
Right?
and sovereignty from the highest.
So power and sovereignty was given to our brothers, right? Everybody in this room from the Most High, from the foundation of the earth. Read on.
Who shall try your works,
Right?
and search out your counsels?
Right?
Because being ministers of his kingdom,
Right?
ye have not judged aright,
And what happens if you don't judge it right after the Lord gave you his power, man? Read on.
nor kept the law,
Right?
nor walked after the counsel of God.
Right?
Horribly and speedily,
No slow is going to take his time.
horribly and speedily
Right?
shall he come upon you.
Right?
For a sharp judgment shall be to them that be in high places.
And we know judgment starts with the house of Israel first, man. Our ancients, man. Right? Knowing we're going to be judged first because we were put in that position, man. Right? So that's what the Lord was saying in James chapter 3 and verse 1. The brother's about to expound on it, right? But since we in that high position, we have a high duty we have to do, right? And that goes into all building a church. Here we go.
Brother, go back to James 3 and 1.
James chapter 3 and verse number 1.
Oh, you finna dig
My-
in this.
My brethren, be not many
It
masters.
says that what?
Be not many
It
masters.
says to be not many masters. One thing that matter of fact, I got a couple precepts on this, man. Yeah, I got a couple precepts. I might need another reader. Brother, give me Luke 11 and 20, Luke 22 and 25. Right? It says, be not many masters. If you in this to be like, the Bible is not for you. And you might as well go sit at the women's table and help serve plates. Right? Because what about the masters? All right, read it again.
My brethren, be not many masters,
Read on.
knowing that we shall receive the greater condemnation.
Now, not only is this spiritual, talking about if you mess up, you're going to get condemnation from the Most High, but you want to know who else going to condemn you? The other people in your organization. Anytime you get on a brother for doing something, that brother's going to hate your guts. That brother's going to feel some type of way. The sister's going to assist, man. When you got to correct the sister, they can't stand you. Right? They going to condemn you. Why? Read on.
Verse 2.
Come on.
For in many things we offend all.
It's you the one, half the time, orders come down from men above me, and I got to give an order as if it's my order. And you know who they're going to get mad at? They're going to get mad at Naquan. They're going to get mad at Zah. They're going to get mad at the brother that's bringing them the order, man. Right? Because you offending, you telling them something that they do not want to do. But it's still your job to enforce it anyway. Read on.
If any man offend not in word,
It says that even if any man doesn't offend in word or in what?
the same is a perfect man.
It says the same is a perfect man. Because you're not going to not be able to offend anybody. You are never going to be able to please everybody. So you know you seek to please?
The Most High.
You seek to please the Most High.
Give me Mark, what I call Luke 11, 22 and 25.
It's the book of Luke, chapter 22 and verse 25.
Right?
And he said unto
What
them,
did he say?
the king of the
He
Gentiles,
says that who?
the king of the Gentiles,
Let's use Donald Trump for this, right? The king of the Gentiles. What do he do? Read on.
exercise lordship over them.
Read on.
And they that exercise authority upon them
Uh-huh.
are called benefactors.
Are called what?
Are called benefactors.
Right? If a brother could real fast, Google benefactor. See what that word actually means. I don't want to take up too much time. Right? Google the term benefactor.
Benefactor says a person who gives money or other help to a person or cause.
Right? That's not the definition. Is another definition on there?
A supporter, a sponsor, helper, donor, contributor.
White terms. When you go into the Greek, benefactor is the one that receives the benefits. He must have spelled it wrong. Right? But benefactor is a man that receives the benefits. Donald Trump got so many tax breaks. He came out on top from being a president of the United States. Barack Obama, any counselor, any senator, they come out on top. They get the benefits of being the one in charge.
So like, I was just looking up, I don't know, I was like a couple of days ago, how many billionaires don't even pay taxes.
Yeah.
Just benefit
Hey,
off
the
of.
queen has something called immunity, meaning she can come in with an AK-47, shoot up this whole room, and go back to England and sleep that night.
Exactly.
Wow.
Immunity.
They receive so many benefits. What you guys on?
Yeah, I got the blue letter. It says a title of honor conferred on such as had done their country service, and upon princes, I don't know how you say that word, equivalent to Sauter, Pater, Patriot.
Right, you go, but I don't know what that last word is. Right, but a benefactor is the person that receives benefit. Right, but what did the Lord say? Right, we going?
Verse 26.
Come on.
But ye shall not be so.
It says that what?
But ye shall not be so.
When it comes down to actually being a leader, sometimes there is no benefit that you're going to see ever. Right, it's a plant, it's a bamboo plant. I think it's somewhere in China. But you gotta water it, I wanna say, for like a year to 10 years before it actually even sprouts above the earth.
Yeah.
So you just blindly watering this plant for years upon years upon years before you actually see any benefit of the increase. So you don't even know if it's a plant that's actually growing up under there, right? Until you actually get that increase. But when it does give that increase, it grows as one of the fastest and the sturdiest of all plants. It grows as one of the fastest and the sturdiest of all plants, right? The Lord says that it shall not be so. You're not going to receive any benefits when it comes down to being a leader. You're going to be the most condemned. You're going to be the most hated. And because, well, we go out and we insult people every single day. You're telling somebody not to be a homosexual. Not to live a life that America is telling you to live. They ain't got no love for you. You ain't did nothing for them. Right? Read on.
But he that is greatest among you
Right? The man that's greatest among you, whether that be knowledgeable, time, brother that got the best counsel, brother that got the best spirit, right? What is he gonna be, read on?
Let him be as the younger.
It says, let him what?
Let him be as the
You
younger.
got a younger brother, right? Are your younger brother, what are you always making him do? Damn, everything. The youngest sibling always the one that lose. They always the one that gotta serve everybody else, right? Read on.
And he that is chief as he that doth serve.
Right? So the man that's the most in charge is the man that's gonna have the most miserable life out of everybody. Because you have to meet the needs of every single person that's up under you. Right? If a brother could real fast, also give me imposter syndrome. I would just want to touch on that real fast. With having confidence.
Imposter syndrome is a condition of feeling anxious and not experiencing success internally, despite being high performing.
Despite being what?
Despite being high
So
performing.
you don't feel no success. It's like you can't go into this truth doubtless. I having doubts, not doubtless. Having doubts, wavering in faith, wavering in courage. Right? When you don't perform day in and day out. We were saying this yesterday. Y'all brothers give up every Friday and Saturday. For some of y'all the last 2-3 years. Some of y'all a little less than that. Right? When you got so many folks that's out there, damn, doing whatever the hell they want on the Shabbat. Right? Y'all won't receive the benefits that everybody else, and that's one thing that you gotta accept. You don't receive the benefits of this life how everybody else do. Free yourself with that information. I do have one more precept real quick. No, I think that's it. That's all right. Everybody got it?
That's right, that's right. Let's go to the book of Mark, chapter 9 and verse 30.
It's the book of Mark, chapter 9 and verse 30.
And like the brother said, on a deeper level, you're not going to know what a true leader goes through unless you're in that position. Like nights of not sleeping, days of fasting, right? Your head hurt, you not being able to eat. You have to deal with these different counsels, these different matters. People asking you for questions, not 24/7. You have no more time to yourself. These are the things that the men in the scriptures went through. But guess what? You're not going to actually know what it feels like until you're in that position. So let's bring that up.
And they departed thence and passed through Galilee. And he would not that many men should know it. For he taught his disciples and said unto them, the Son of Man is delivered unto the hands of men, and they shall kill him. And after that he is killed, he shall rise the third day.
Right, jump down to verse 34.
Verse 34. But they held their peace, for by the way they had disputed among themselves who should be the greatest.
So the disciples, they're talking about who should be the greatest. Who is going to be the leader? They're counseling about this matter. You don't want to be counseling amongst a matter like this. And who is going to do this? Who's going to be the top man? Who's going to be in charge? Read on.
And he sat down and called the 12 and saith unto them, if any man desire to be first.
It says what?
If any man desire to be first.
What do Yahawah say?
If any man desire to be first.
So if you got a lot of men, they desire to be first, man. They want to be seen of men. They want to be like somebody. They want to be LeBron James in the truth, right? Mr. Hero, Mr. the top mightiest man. Read on.
The same shall be last of all.
The what?
The same shall be last of all.
Read on.
And servant of all.
And that's what they're not going to tell you, man. Guess what? If you're a leader, you're not first, man. You're the last. You're going to be the last brother cleaning up the school. You're going to be picking up all of the trash. Everybody else had a good time. You're going to be seeking the benefits of others while you're like a cast out. But at the end of the day, it's all the work of the Most High. And people are not going to understand the things that you do. So you don't want to force yourself into a position like this. You want to let the Lord exalt you. Let the Most High put you in that position. Right? Because the Lord doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the call. So you look at the men like Moses. Moses had a speech impediment. Right? Let's go to that Exodus 4:10. Moses couldn't speak. He couldn't talk. He said, Lord, I mean, how am I going to do this? But guess what? The Most High, he saw what's best. Not when man wants things to be done. Right? Let's bring that out. Exodus 4:10.
It's Exodus chapter 4 and verse 10. And Moses said unto the Lord, O my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither herefore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue.
See, that's what Moses said. Guess what? I'm slow of speech. I have a speech. I'm not an eloquent man, right? You read about Apollos in Acts chapter 18 and 24, I believe. He was mighty in the scriptures, right? An eloquent man. But Moses, he wasn't like that. Read on.
Verse 11. And the Lord said unto him, Who hath made man's mouth? Or who maketh the dumb or deaf, or the seeing, or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say.
So Moses had to do something called stepping out of his comfort zone. You can't be a shy guy, man. People, they running all over you. You say, I don't want to say nothing. Right? The brother smack you upside the head, say wins count. He smacking you, just say, I don't want. No, but you got to step up, man. You got to tell them, you got to set things in order, man. You can't be letting the spirit that you're moving in, that's going to rub off on a congregation. Right? So all of these different things is attributed to a leader. Let's go to 2 Ezra chapter 5. Right? 2 Ezra chapter 5 and verse number 13.
2 Ezra chapter 5 and verse number 13. To shew thee such tokens, I have leave. And if thou wilt pray again, and weep as now, and fast 7 days, thou shalt hear yet greater things.
So Ezra had to fast for 7 days. Imagine that. Certain brothers, they can't even get past a 1 day fast. You looking at the refrigerator, you walking in and out the kitchen. You just walking in and out there. You opening up the door, then you closing it back. Ezra, he had to fast for 7 days. Read on.
Then I awakened, and extreme fearfulness went through all my body, and my mind was troubled, so that it fainted. So the angel that was come to talk with me held me, comforted me, and set me upon my feet. And in the second night it came to pass that Salathiel, the captain of the people, came unto me, saying, Wherefore hast thou been? And why is thy countenance so heavy?
Right, because Ezra, he was in the wilderness. He was getting the in-depth breakdowns. He was afflicting himself. He was receiving the visions for that ultimately, on a deeper level, for the men to come. Read on. So he's saying, hold on, where have you been? Right? And that's what you're going to get. You're going to get the reproach of the people, man. People are going to talk about you. They're going to say what you don't know, what you do know. They're going to get on you. As a leader, guess what? You're going to make certain decisions that people just not going to understand. And they're going to have to deal with it, man. If I make a decision, and it's because what I think is best in the future, and another brother disagree with it, well, guess what? That he don't have no understanding, man. He's not going to foresee the decision that I'm making. Maybe he's just now coming into the truth. Maybe he's not there yet on that type of level. So leaders, they're going to make decisions that people are just not going to understand. And some people might just never understand. Read on. So he's asking Ezra, he says, where are you at? Read on.
Verse 17. Knowest thou not that Israel is committed unto thee and the land of their captivity? Upon them, up then and eat bread. Forsake us not as the shepherd that leaveth his flock in the hands of cruel wolves.
And somebody might say, you forsaken us. All because you're present. Don't you know we in captivity? We need you. Where have you been? But the captain said, he didn't know that what was Ezra doing. He didn't know what the Most High commanded him to do. What Uriel, the angel, was going to visit him again after 7 days. He didn't understand that. But guess what Ezra said? Read on.
Then said I unto him, Go thy way from me.
He said what?
Go thy way from me.
Read on.
And come not nigh me. And he heard what I said.
And
he heard what I said.
Hey, that's modern day term. Hey, he heard what I said. I had to say it one time. Right? He heard what get away from me, man. Read on.
And went from me.
And guess what? He went from him. So as a leader, people not going to understand the decisions you make. The discernment moves. Right? And they also have high levels of discipline. So it's many different attributes. Let's go to Sirach chapter 18 and 1. And this all coincides with building up the church.
Sirach chapter 18 and 1. He that liveth forever created all things is
Sirach 10 and 1.
10 and 1.
Sirach chapter 10 and 1.
Sirach 10 and 1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered.
Right?
As the judge of the people is himself,
It says what?
as the judge of the people is himself,
Read on.
so are his officers.
Read on.
And what manner of men the ruler of the city is, such are they that dwell therein.
So whatever man, the head, the man in charge, the overseer, whatever spirit he's in, that's gonna be the men around. They're gonna be in that same spirit. So if the leader, if he's goofy, he's always cracking jokes, guess what? The people, they're gonna be the same way, man. If the leader is slothful, lazy, doesn't get anything done, doesn't do the work of the Most High, guess what? The people gonna be around him as well. If the leader has a heavy covetous spirit, lying spirit, those men gonna be in the same spirit as well. And building up the church, we have to make sure we're not doing this because we need that sure, strong foundation. Anytime you build upon something, it has to have a strong foundation. And that strong foundation is a Mashiach Wamalak Yahawah. Right, President?
Oh, that's right, man. Go to the book of Sirach 45 and verse 1. Right? So Moses and Aaron was very big leaders, man. Right? Knew how to control the church, man. Right? But they were in high positions, meaning they got high punishments, man. Right? Read that, Baba Kasha.
It's the book of Sirach, chapter 45 and verse 1. And he brought out him, a merciful man,
Right?
which found favor in the sight of all flesh.
Right?
Even Moses,
Right?
beloved of God and men, whose memorial is
He
blessed.
loved of the Most High and men. Right? Read on.
He made him like to the glorious saints and magnified him, so that his enemies stood in fear of him.
Right?
By his words, he caused the wonders to cease,
Mhm.
and he made him glorious in the sight of
He was
kings,
made glorious in the sight of kings. Read on.
and gave him a commandment
Right?
for his people, and showed him part of his glory.
Jump down to verse number 16. Right? Let's talk about Aaron. So we know a little bit about Moses, man. The Most High, put him on a pedestal, man. Right? The Most High gave him glory. Moses was a very humble man. Let's read about Aaron. Read on.
Verse 16, he chose him out of all men, living to offer sacrifices to the Lord,
Right?
incense, and a sweet Savior for a memorial, to make reconciliation for his people.
Right?
He gave unto him his commandments and authority
And what?
and authority
So Moses and Aaron had authority. Read on.
and statutes of judgment,
Right?
that he should teach Jacob the testimonies and inform Israel in his laws.
These men were set up to teach a whole nation of individuals, man. That's a high office, man. To lead and to build and maintain the church, man. Now let's see what happens if they don't perform their job correctly. Right? The Most High loves them. But this is what the Most High would do if you're in a leadership position. Right? Go to the book of Numbers, chapter 20, verse 23. Right? Numbers, chapter 20, verse 23.
It's the book of Numbers, chapter 20, and verse 23. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron and Mount Horeb.
Right?
It's like in Mount Hor, by the coast of the land of Edom, saying,
Right?
Aaron shall be gathered unto his people,
Aaron shall be gathered unto his people. Read on.
for he shall not enter into the land which I have given unto the children of Israel.
These men were set up to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt, man. Right? They seen the 10 plagues, man. Splitting of the Red Sea, and now Aaron couldn't inherit the land. Read on.
Because he rebelled against my word
Right?
at the water of Meribah.
Right?
Take Aaron and Eleazar his son,
And now Eleazar his son. He says, take Eleazar and his son. Read on.
and bring them up unto Mount Hor,
Right? Because when you're on a mount, everybody can see you. Read on.
and strip Aaron of his garments.
And do what?
And strip Aaron of his garments.
Right? And when you read Sirach chapter 45 and verse 8, do you know what Aaron had on, man? Decked out, man. Even his crown was engraved holiness, man. Man had it, man. Jewels, long robe, man. With the ephod with all of the 12 stones, man. Right? Even the thing holding the chain was of pure gold, man. Stripped him of his garments. Read on.
And put them upon Eleazar his son.
And do what?
And put them upon Eleazar his son.
Read on.
And Aaron shall be gathered unto his people,
Right?
and shall die there.
Read on.
And Moses did as the Lord commanded.
Right?
And they went up into Mount Hor,
Right?
in the sight of all the
No,
congregation.
this was done in private.
And the sight of all the congregation.
Imagine you being stripped of your garments given to your son in front of a whole nation of people, man, because you went off, man. Public example. right? These men were set up to lead the church, man. And he got stripped of his garments. Let's see what happened to Moses. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 3 and verse 23. All right, the Lord, see, if you're in a leadership position, the Lord's not going to play with you, man, because you're in a high office, right? This is a high-risk, high-reward business, right? You do what's right, you get a reward. If you don't, you get a sore judgment. All right, Deuteronomy 3:23.
Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 23.
Right,
And I besought the Lord at that time, saying,
right,
O Lord God, thou hast begun to shew thy servant thy greatness
right,
and thy mighty hand.
right,
For what God is there in heaven or in the earth,
right.
that can do according to thy works and according to thy might.
Like, so if you're a child, you want to do something, you ask your parents, you start kind of buttering them up a little bit. Man, you came from the gym or something, you're looking good, man. Right, but you want to go to that party later, man. Moses was already told he couldn't get the land, but now you're trying to pray to the Lord on supplication. Read on.
I pray thee, let me go over and see the good land
Right.
that is beyond Jordan, that goodly mountain in Lebanon.
Right,
But the Lord was rough with me
right.
for your sakes, and would not hear
The
me.
Lord didn't even want to hear what Moses was talking about. Read on.
And the Lord said unto me, let it suffice thee.
Right.
Speak no more unto me of this matter.
What did he say?
Speak no more unto me of this
I don't
matter.
want to hear it. Moses already told you you're not getting that promised land. Stop praying unto me on this matter before I get mad. Right? That's what he just told Moses, man. All right? Jump down to verse 28. Then what else he tell Moses?
Verse 28. But charge Joshua
Right? So stop talking to me about this thing. Get up and go charge Joshua. Read on.
and encourage him
Right?
and strengthen him.
Right?
For he shall go over before this people, and he shall cause them to inherit the
Yeah,
land.
you're not going to see it. Joshua is. So make sure he's ready to bring my people into the land, man. Go to Deuteronomy chapter 5 and verse 1. Now, Moses could have got mad. He could have shrugged his shoulders. Right? But let's see what Moses did.
Deuteronomy 5 and 1.
Right?
And Moses called all Israel
Right?
and said unto them, Hear, O Israel, the statutes and judgments
Right?
which I speak in your ears this day,
Right?
that ye may learn them and keep them and do them.
And Moses got back to work, man, for the love of his people. Moses knew he wasn't seeing the promised land. What if the Lord came to you by night and said you would not get the kingdom of heaven? Don't speak no more unto me this matter, but go out Friday and Saturday night and teach my people the same way. Who will really do that? Who will go back in the world? Who's really going to stay in this truth, man?
Right.
The Lord already told you not getting the kingdom. You're not seeing his chariots of salvation. You're going to be destroyed in the famine. And tells you how, right? But you got to get up and you got to teach the Lord's people until the hopeful elect is sealed, whether you get the kingdom or not, man. That's the type of leadership, thankless position, man. That's what the Lord can do. Go to the book of 1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 26. Start verse 24.
1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse number 24. And Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and thy words,
Right.
because I feared the people and obeyed their voice.
So hold on. Saul's repenting. He praying he telling Samuel, please beseech the Lord on my behalf. I'm sorry, I repent. Read on.
Verse 25.
Right?
Now therefore I pray thee, pardon my sin.
What do you ask the Lord?
Pardon my sins.
Right?
And turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord.
Right? Because in Baruch 4:28, Lord, I will seek thee 10 times harder. Right? I know I messed up, but Lord, I'm gonna seek you more this time. Right? I got you, Lord. Read on. But what the Lord said.
And Samuel said unto Saul, I will now return with thee,
Right?
for thou hast rejected the word of Yahawah,
Right?
and the Lord hath rejected thee,
What do you do?
and the Lord hath rejected thee
Right?
from being king over Israel.
Read on.
And as Samuel turned about to go away, he laid hold upon the skirt of his mantle and rent it.
Right?
And Samuel said unto him, the Lord hath rent the kingdom of Israel from thee this day,
Right?
and hath given it to a neighbor of thine
Right.
that is better than
That
thou.
is what?
That is better than thou.
I give the kingdom to somebody else that's going to be better than you at your job, right? And you even see that in the world, man. People get fired, and somebody else is set up in their stead that's much more better than them. Usually younger, right? Don't got a lot of stuff going on, right? They guess what? They're set up in that position. The Lord does that with our men. The Lord can do that with us. You see brothers fall in and out this truth all the time, man. You see congregations form and congregations dissolve, man. Right? These things happen all the time. the Lord will set up somebody that's better than you, man. So when we talk about building a church, we're talking about something that's very high risk, man. We're talking about something that's very serious in the eyes of the Lord. This is nothing to play with. This truth is not a hobby. Going to camp is not something you do on your pastime. This is your job, man. Before your worldly job, this is your number one position, and you have to take this serious, man. If you were given an office, that's not an office for the camp. That's an office for the Lord, man.
Right.
The Lord ordained you to be in that position. You were doing the same thing in the ancient world, man. We can't play around with this because the Lord would strip you of your garments. The Lord would tell you you're not getting the kingdom, right? The Lord would, hey, guess what? Give your office to somebody better than you, and now you back in the world doing what you was doing beforehand. Brothers, God.
That's right. That's right. Let's go to the book of 2 Timothy chapter 2. Actually, before we go to add into the brother, what the brother was saying, let's go to the book of Esther, the first chapter, right? Let's go to the book of Esther, chapter 1 and verse number 19. And like the brother is saying, it's the same way with the sisters as well, the women. You have to be able to literally be an example to the younger women, because it's not just the men that's going to help build up the nation. A nation consists of men and women and children. So it's the same way. If you're not being reverencing your husbands, teaching the younger women how to be sober, everything mentioned in Titus, the second chapter, the Lord is going to raise up somebody else that's better than you. Let's bring that out. Esther chapter 2 and 19. Esther 1 and 19.
Book of Esther, chapter 1 and 19. If it please the king, let there go a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before the king Ahasuerus,
Right.
and let the king give her royal estate unto another.
It says what?
And let the king give her a royal estate unto another.
Now you read about Vashti. She didn't want to do what the king said. King Ahasuerus had him come before him, right? He wanted to literally take this woman, and guess what? She did. She rebelled against the commandment of King Ahasuerus. So he let out the decree that Vashti come no more before the king. And ultimately, on a spiritual level, our king is Yahawah. So if you're doing things that's not pleasing in his eyes, the Lord is going to have you not to come before you. The Most High don't care if you're a woman, man. The Lord don't care if you just coming in this thing. If the Most High give you a responsibility, you want to be able to execute that with no feelings at all. Or what's going to happen?
Unto another that is better than she.
That is what?
That is better than she.
So just like you got men, other men that's better than you, you have women out here, they're going to be better than you, man. They're going to reverence their husband better than you.
Right.
They're going to teach their children better than you. They're going to teach the younger women better than you. They're going to literally be the righteous foremothers in the scriptures. And it's all building up a church. Again, you have to have a strong foundation. Let's go to Matthew chapter 7 and 24.
Matthew chapter 7 and verse number 24. It reads, Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock.
So if you literally, all of these sayings is not just Matthew the 7th chapter or the Sermon on the Mount. These sayings is the whole Bible. So if you're keeping these sayings, you're hearing them, and not only that, you're applying these things, all of the you know how many precepts is in this Bible? It's precepts within precepts, within precepts. So it could be over 10,000 precepts in this thing. You might read a precept that you never thought, you read over it, but you didn't literally see it how you see it now. Or you turn the scripture, you could turn Matthew 6, you could turn anything into a precept. Double fold, quadruple fold. So all of these sayings is the whole Bible. And if you're hearing these sayings and doing them, the Lord likened to you a man which built his house upon a rock. You want to make sure you're building a church upon a rock. Because if you build this house, this temple is the Lord's temple. Let a man build the Most High's temple, which is the nation, on some hay. Right? And you got certain men, they do that. They lazy. Man, just put, you building the Most High temple on this right here. Some plastic. Say, let's go sting right here. Most High here, he'll save it. Right? And can he do all things? That's evil, man.
Right.
You tempting the Most High. You want to make sure it's a strong foundation, which are these words. And if you apply them, read on, verse 25.
Verse 25. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it will not. It's like, and it fell not.
It says what?
And it fell not.
Read that again.
And it fell not.
So you don't want the church to fall. You don't want the temple, the nation to fall over. You don't even your congregation that you might be over. Right? The men you don't want these things to fall. Read on.
For it was founded upon a rock.
For what?
For it was founded upon a rock.
Read on.
And every one that heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them not, shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand.
That's Jake. You're always gonna have that one man, he gonna do something crazy like that, man. Building his house on sand. Right? That's a man that hear these words, read over these things, know these things, but he doesn't apply them. Read on.
Then the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell.
Because you're gonna have certain things that's gonna try to break the building down. Just like during the time of Nehemiah. The heathens, they try to tear the building down. Right? You're gonna have the spiritual demon Satan beat upon the church, send different demons, different plagues. And if you don't have a strong foundation, which is that rock, you're literally gonna fall. Read on.
And great was the fall of it. And it came to pass, when Yahawah ended these sayings, the people were astonished at his doctrine, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes.
Right, and they never heard that before. One more precept, right? Ephesians chapter 2 and 20. Brothers know who that rock is. They have to build the house upon. It's Yahawah. Right? That's the strongest foundation. Ephesians chapter 2 and 20.
Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 20. And are built upon the foundation of the apostles and the prophets, Yahawah Mashiach himself being the chief cornerstone.
It says what?
Being the chief cornerstone.
What is Yahawah?
Being the chief cornerstone.
So the Lord, he's that chief cornerstone, that strong foundation, that if any man put his trust in him, it's not going to fail. We want to make sure we're building the church and our personal lives upon that rock. Brothers, God.
That's right.
God, give me Ephesians 5 and 21.
Ephesians chapter 5 and verse number 21. Submitting yourselves one to another
What does the word say?
submitting yourselves one to another.
It said to submit yourselves one to another. One sure foundation. What Tazman was going into was he talking about being built upon a rock, and that rock being Yahawah. The main thing that Yahawah taught was selflessness. Right? Read that verse again.
Submitting yourselves one to another.
What that means is that if everybody in this room accept that they're the loser, then that means that everybody in this room wins. Because if I lose to you, you lose to him, you lose to him, and we continue to submit ourselves unto another, that means every brother is taken care of, man. Right? Even if it's just, hell, every brother in the camp, pick 2 brothers, and you look out for that brother like you would look out for yourself, that means that every single person in the camp got somebody watching their back. Right? That's submitting yourselves one to another, right? Read on, finish it up.
Reading on. To another in the fear of God.
He says in the what?
In the fear of God.
Understanding that if anything happens to him, who you think the Most High gonna judge?
You.
He gonna judge you. Right? So what? And you gonna look out for that brother as you want the Most High to look out for you. Right? Read the next verse, look.
Verse 22.
All right, and this for the sisters.
Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, as unto the Lord.
Right? It says that the wives are supposed to submit themselves as unto their husbands, as unto the Most High. So that means that if she submits herself unto you, as you submit yourself unto the Most High, that means that you have to treat her with the same passion, with the same everything that you want the Most High to treat you with. Right? It means that you can't be quick to anger. Right? You can't be quick to cut her off. You can't be quick to just want to put her away. Right? You gotta have patience. You gotta have compassion with the sister. And then for the sisters, in it being in reverse, what they got to understand is that when it comes to their house, every single sister has their own personal God living in their house with them, right? And give me, I ain't gonna go to it real fast, but Romans 8 and 28,
right? It says something real heavy. Basically, roughly paraphrasing, right? The Most High gonna take care of those that love and submit themselves unto Him. But you got it? Oh, you can read that real fast.
Romans chapter 8 and 28. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God.
Right? So if everything works together for the good of those that love God, that means that everybody that's on the Most High plan, it's a saying in the world. They say that God only works for those that believe in Him. And it's the same way when it comes to the sister. If you want the best out of your man, you're going to have to believe in him the same way you want him to believe in the Most High. Right? But brothers, you guys got something?
That's right, that's right. This precept in Sirach chapter 33 and 17. Sirach chapter 33 and verse 17. Because this is what it's all about, man. Being a leader, right? It's selflessness, man. Selfless acts, like the brother said. Right?
Sirach chapter 33 and verse 17.
Right?
Consider that I labor not for myself only.
Right? We don't labor for ourselves, right? It's not a golf tournament, right? You individual, you being an individualized, whoever gets the kingdom first, and that's it. No, man. We're not laboring for ourselves only. We don't.
But for all them that seek learning.
But what?
But for all them that seek
We
learning.
labor for all them that seek learning, man. Right? We don't know who's watching this live right now. Could be somebody in Brazil somewhere, and they just stumbled across a video and they see us teaching. And next, the next hour they would just grab their mom's Bible and they start to study. We don't know what's going on, man. But we're doing this for all those that seek learning, man. We're offering ourselves as a sacrifice for the service of our brethren's faith. Right? Go to Philippians 2 and 17. That's what Paul said. Right? Your body has to be a living sacrifice for another brother's faith. All right?
Philippians chapter 2 and verse number 17.
Right?
Yeah. And if I be offered upon the sacrifice
Right?
and service of your faith, I joy and rejoice with you all.
We gotta have joy doing that, offering ourselves as a sacrifice for our brother's faith, man. Right? Brothers may be down in the spirit, pull up on that brother, man. Right? You had a long day at work, your back hurt, your feet hurt, you just want to go home, but you stopped at that brother's house just to give that brother some precepts, man. And guess what? Now he's built back up in the faith. These things happen, and these things gotta be done all for the building of the church. There you got it.
Let's go to the book of 2 Samuel chapter 23 and verse number 2. Right? 2 Samuel chapter 23 and 2.
2 Samuel 23 and 2. The Spirit of the Lord spake by me, and his word was in my tongue. The God of Israel said, the rock of Israel spake to me.
It says what?
The rock of Israel spake to me.
Read on.
He that ruleth over men.
It says what?
He that ruleth over men.
What the Most High say?
He that ruleth over men
Read on.
must be just.
Must be what?
Must be just.
Read on.
Ruling in the fear of Yahawah.
So if you ruling over men, you have your respective congregation, you're in a position of leadership on any type of level. The Lord said you must rule in the fear of, you must be just, ruling over men in the fear of the Most High God. All right?
And with that, we like to give all praises to Yahawah, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, for a mighty live service, man. Brother's gonna be at East Brady Street. What was the address? 1400 East Brady Street, Unity Camp with HOI. Come out if you're in the Milwaukee area. All praise to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. Like to bid a mighty strong Shalom. Shalom.